shorter than I anticipated, but interesting. Bouncing around, saw a lot of trains, Amtrak trains, saw a lot of HSP 46s, maybe too many. But I get to see some of the F40PH-3Cs and a CS6 local freight, so it wasn't a total loss. Most entertaining 7 hours here. Picking up speed, leaving Bsck Bay, and coming out of the tunnel. Rubble Station. A neat place to rail fan. Amidst the canyon of the Southwest Corridor project. Once they come out of the tunnel out of Bsck Bay, they really take off. Departed Bsck Bay at 5:40 p.m. due into New York at 10:04. Hopefully this trip will be without incident. Plains interlocking, passing the Forest Hill Station. This is where the Needham Heights branch diverges on the other side. Right around here we come out of the canyon of the construction project. Forest Hills. Right over here is where the old Orange Line used to terminate on an elevated structure. There was also a trolley line that came down here and met up with the Orange Line. The trolley station was called Arbor Way. The E trolley went down here. Now the trolley goes, it terminates further north at Heath Street. A Green Line trolley. On this right away you might see some of the famous Boston triple-decker houses. Yeah, I saw a couple over there. Some here. Get some of the scenery on this line going along the Long Island Sound, Narragansett Bay. The long days of late spring Should be daylight most of the way, at least as far as New Haven. And this is Hyde Park Station. See the Blue Hills Preserve in the background. See that high hill back there? It's loaded with hiking trails. It's the highest point along the Atlantic Ocean between Florida and the Maine border. That was Reedville Station we passed. Up above is the Fairmount branch into Boston. There's a CSX locomotive, a couple of them. This is Reedville Yard. CSX locals run out of here. Another engine, 6222, saw that earlier. It's been a stunning day weather-wise, 70s. Couldn't ask for better weather. Can't complain about the weather in most of my rail fan odysseys. I had planned to come up here on April 22nd, but the northbound train was 3 hours late. That train hasn't been very fortunate for the most part, between delays and what happened this morning. Plus it was real cold that day. It was like 45 degrees. Today it was beautiful. Okay, we're slowing down for Route 128 station. After he pulls out of Route 128, we'll be rocketing again at 125. And there is Route 128 right over us. Route 128, it's about 12 miles out from downtown. And here we go, next stop Providence, Rhode Island. Be up to 125 miles an hour in no time. God, I wish the corridor was like this all the way to New York. This end of the line is super right of way. Junction. Gee, it looks very familiar. There's the Stoughton branch going off. Going about as fast as those two trains I saw trackside this afternoon. There's the Canton Viaduct, built in the 1830s, 1840s. Still handling heavy-duty railroading in the 21st century. Conductor's coming from a ticket. Alright, we're back on board. We just passed Sharon Station. Really flying. To see anybody trespass on this railroad. It'd be in a million pieces. Just past Amtrak there. The catenary poles, pretty basic looking, nothing fancy like the Pennsylvania Railroad's New York, Washington, Maine, but it does a good enough job. It's constant tension catenary, no sagging, regardless of the temperature, 25 kilovolts. Much of the corridor between New York and Washington is like this, fast track, but not that much on the New York-Boston section. You really don't start getting into the triple-digit range going east from New York until you get to Rhode Island. And other than Providence and that surrounding area, it's 100-mile track, 100-mile-an-hour track all the way to Bsck Bay Station pretty much. West of Rhode Island in Connecticut, eastern Connecticut's pretty fast. You can do 90, a lot of curves. Some good scenery there though. You go right alongside the Long Island Sound. It's really beautiful. West of New Haven, I'm not even going to mention that. Metro North owned track, slow. I wish Amtrak had taken that over. Too slow. Takes almost as long to go from New Haven to New York as it does to go from Boston to New Haven. Not quite as long as that, but too long. I'd like to see a train like this make the run from New Haven to New York in about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, instead of an hour and 40 minutes. That's ridiculous. We are still plodding. Well, here's Mansfield, Massachusetts. This is a great place to rail fan. Trains go through there at their highest speeds. We're doing every bit of 125. The sellers do 150. Interlocking here. Framingham Secondary joined us here from Walpole and Framingham. Section of track from Boston to Providence saw a lot of lightweight streamliners. Daniel Webster, John Quincy Adams, and the Comet. The Comet was probably the earliest version of a lightweight high-speed train. It was in the schedule, Boston to Providence, non-stop, 44 minutes. Can do it faster than that today. They can make it as far as Kingston, Rhode Island from Boston in about 55 minutes. It's about 70-something miles. To get to New York from Boston. Traveling at this speed, you wonder why it takes so long. Well, when you get to the Metro North part of the ride from New Haven westward, you'll see exactly why. Operates on a schedule such that it can benefit commuters in Boston who live in Providence. Makes a good, fast commuter train to Providence in the evening. Some extra track here. Here's Attleboro Tower, the old tower. That's the line of Cape Cod that just came in. This is the town of Attleboro, Massachusetts. Here's Attleboro Station. Before they built the South Attleboro Station, and when the subsidies by Rhode Island ran out, Rhode Island didn't pay for the commuter service. Trains ended at Attleboro. Rhode Island threw their piece of the pie in, then they resumed service to Providence and on to Wickford Junction. They even have a station south of Providence called T.F. Green Airport. So MBTA is much more involved in the state of Rhode Island. There's even been talk about running MBTA trains down to New London, Connecticut. If that happened, then you could theoretically travel from Boston to New York without setting foot on an Amtrak train. Out of New London, you can get Shoreline East to New Haven and then Metro North to New York. Slowing down, there's a curve up ahead here at Hebronville. Sharp right-hand turn. They used to store MBTA commuter trains in there. That used to be a storage yard. They don't use it anymore now that the trains are going to Providence and Whitford Junction. South Attleboro Station. It's a relatively new station. Serves the communities along the Rhode Island-Massachusetts border, northeastern Rhode Island, northeast of Providence. Kind of an interesting moment on the Orange Line subway this afternoon. I got on at Ruggles and I wanted to go to Bsck Bay, and I wanted to capture the narration and the public address from the former MBTA employee Frank Oglesby. He's the voice of Boston. Everybody in Boston hears his voice saying doors will open on the right. You hear that voice a lot. But while I was trying to capture that voice, this this rather irritating person was like yelling at me, calling me a creep for taking pictures, invading privacy, and I don't know. He looked a bit unbalanced, but sometimes there are some people out there who just don't understand rail fans. Happily, people like that are in the minority. Oh, he called me some bad names. He's nuts. Yeah, you meet all kinds of people all over. What are you going to do? Okay, we're going through the old Pawtucket station. We joined up with the Providence and Worcester from Worcester. It's going to take us into Providence. One of the neat things about this line, and I'll film when we get into that area, is in eastern Connecticut there are several railroad crossings, and you'll hear the engine blowing his horn for those crossings. In fact, New London itself has 3 of them. The very last one you encounter is west of New London in Waterford, Miners Lane. There's a couple east of London, New London. There's I think 1 or 2 around Mystic, and a couple along the marshes in Stonington. It's really pretty there. On a day like today, it should really look good. Well, we're in Rhode Island several minutes. Believe it or not, Rhode Island has the longest official name of any state. Rhode Island is the unofficial name. The official name for Rhode Island is the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantation. Henceforth, the capital city of Providence. Imagine writing that on an envelope you're mailing to somebody. Now here's the MBTA storage yard for the commuter trains. See some of these heavy double-deckers. And those engines. I've had enough. They are ugly looking locomotives. Very noisy though, but they're filthy. They're oily, greasy. Not elegant at all, and definitely not a fan of those things. I think it's fairly obvious from my narrative where my priorities are. General Motors. And you saw a few of those F40 PH-3Cs in that paint scheme. They look fabulous. I think I only saw maybe one or two of them running around today, but at least I got several shots of it. I didn't get over to the north side, the old XB&M. Who knows what they're running on that end? Who knows, I may have missed a whole bunch of older stuff. I think they still have some F40 PH-2Cs in service that they haven't rebuilt yet. Some cheap 40 MCs. I know they have a couple of MP36 PH-3Cs. But I know for a fact they have 40 of those Garfields. Post 186. My visit here into Boston was only about maybe a little over 7 hours. Could have been as much as 9.5 hours. I didn't get a chance to do any sightseeing in addition to the rail fanning. All I really had time for was rail fanning. But I hope to come back this summer with my wife and a friend. Do the Freedom Trail and the whole ball of wax. Well, here's downtown Providence. Providence Station. Station kind of reminds me of 30th Street, Philadelphia. Enclosed. Not as many platforms though. Okay, we did the 44 miles from Boston to Providence. Time is 6:15. We did it in 40 minutes. Yeah, we're out of Providence a little ways now. It's 6:27. Just past TF Green Airport Station. to stop for the commuter trains. Soon we should be passing by East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Right there is Narragansett Bay, which should be a pretty sight in the evening. Should be passing by there in a little bit. Still fast track. Rhode Island has quite a bit of fast track. Once you get out of Rhode Island, it starts to get very sinus. Here it is, Narragansett Bay. East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Narragansett Bay. Here it is. Pretty. Parts of this line are almost as scenic as the Pacific coastline, the LA San Diego road. Okay, we're receding away from the bay now. Not just yet. Real New Englandy. New England's got some beautiful coastal areas, be it on the bays or the Sound or in the ocean. One town I definitely recommend visiting is Rockport, Massachusetts. You can take the commuter train out of North Station, Boston, up to Rockport. It's the last stop. It's like a 10-minute walk into town. It's right along the coast. A lot of nice restaurants, artist colonies. Really beautiful. Yeah, we left Kingston a little while ago, running through the swampland of central Rhode Island. Next stop is Westerly, right on the border of Connecticut. Really not much to see here. Okay, you're looking at downtown Westerly, Rhode Island. We're at the Amtrak station in Westerly. Soon we'll be entering Connecticut, and the nicest part of the whole ride will start around here. We start to hug the Long Island Sound coast. We're just about done going through Rhode Island. Doesn't take long to get through this state. Very small. It's about 40-odd miles long on the railroad. This is a real local. This train makes Mystic, Connecticut. For it to stop at Mystic, Connecticut, you know that's a local. Downtown Westerly. Beautiful evening to ride along the coast here. It's going to really look pretty. There's a railroad crossing. First one we've encountered coming out of Boston. This is crossing Bell Alley. There's quite a few railroad crossings between here and Waterford on the other side of New London. just about in Connecticut. As soon as we get into Connecticut, we start hugging the coast right away. There it is. You can see it. ACS 64 blowing his K5LA horn for the crossings. We'll encounter several of them. New London, he has 3. It's a hawk. Quite a ways, even beyond New London. Show it to you. There we go. That's beautiful. Stonington, Connecticut. Some crossings they go over, they don't blow their horns for. You know, the crossing at Mystic Station, they don't blow their horn for it. They used to. We're coming in at Mystic in a little bit, a couple of minutes. the silent crossing there. Into Mystic, Connecticut, home of the famous Mystic Seaport. Not too far from here is the Foxwoods Resort Casino. It is Mystic Station. Departing Mystic at 7:08 p.m. Still plenty of daylight. Well, it's May 20th, so we're getting into the long days of the year. Rounding a bend here, I'm going to go over a drawbridge, Shaws Cove. Boats still in storage, but in another couple of weeks or so, a lot of them will be out in the water. People are getting ready to have a rip-roaring summer this year, make up for last year. Yeah, here's the Shaws Cove drawbridge. Next stop is New London. Yeah, it's been quite a day. Trip up with the mishap, fatality, unfortunate. This is picture postcard. No better way to see scenery like this than riding on a train. New Haven section of the Northeast Corridor, between the high-speed running and the seascapes, I mean, you can't beat it. It's the most exciting piece of railroad. Right around here is a point called Midway. Back in New Haven days, it used to be a big division point there. It was like more or less halfway between New York and Boston, although I think it was closer to Boston than New York. But it was a big division point for the New Haven Railroad. This is Midway right here. We're not breaking any speed records through here. A lot of curves. But what it lacks in speed makes up for in scenery. Passing by, that's Groton Airport there, the end of the runway. We're near New London. Groton is a sister city to New London. Groton is where the Coast Guard Academy is, and there's a submarine base there. Soon we'll be crossing over the Thames River Bridge. Actually, I think they call it the Thames River Bridge here. London, England, they call it the Thames. Thames, T-H-A-M-E-S. We'll have 4 more grade crossings, 3 in New London alone, and Miners Lane in Waterford, west of New London. And that'll be it. Miners Lane is the last railroad crossing you encounter on a trip from Boston to Washington on the corridor. Even at Harrisburg, there are no crossings. soon we'll be crossing over the Thames River. Just before we do that, the old New Haven Railroad Worcester branch diverged off here. Now that belongs to the Providence and Worcester Railroad. Milepost 125. It's measured from Grand Central Terminal, New York. New Haven Railroad ran a lot of passenger trains up this way back when it was the New Haven Railroad, before Penn Central came along. Some of their fastest trains were the Mayflower, the Yankee Clipper, the Merchants Limited. Those were their fastest trains. It took about 4 hours and 15 minutes to make the run from New York to Boston. Used to have parlor cars, dining cars, coaches. There are other trains on the line like the Patriot, the Senator, the Colonial, and the Federal. Those were the joint New Haven Railroad, Pennsylvania Railroad trains from Washington to Boston. The Federal was the overnight train. There are other trains like the Gilt Edge, the Puritan, the Bostonian, the Bay State. Okay, here we're going over the Thames River Bridge here. The tracks parallel route I-95. I-95 towers over the railroad tracks to the north, crossing the river. And then after we cross the river, we come into New London, Connecticut. Okay, here it is, the Thames River. The New London skyline in the background. A lot of sea commerce goes on in this town. You have ferries to Fisher's Island, not too far off the coast. It's actually part of the town of Southold on Long Island, but they get their mail from the New London Post Office. You have the New London Orient Point Ferry. That's on the North Fork eastern tip of Long Island. And I think they have a ferry to Block Island as well. In the summertime, this place is jumping with ferry boats. Down there you saw tracks. The New England Central coming down from Palmer, Massachusetts, Brattleboro, Vermont, and St. Albans comes into New London. Used to be the old Central Vermont Railroad. Used to be a yard here for the CV. Now we're curving sharply, heading down towards downtown New London. You'll hear them blow for the crossings here. There's 3 of them. That track you see down below, that's the old CV connection. Connection between the CV and the New Haven. Right here you can see a ferry loading. This is one of the ferries that goes to Orient Point, Long Island. There are several ferries that ply that route. Very popular, heavily used. There's a Shoreline East train. Some of their trains terminate in New London. Those are old Mafurza cars that used to toil on Virginia Railway Express. There's a P40, number 840. Looks pretty bad. There's a Coast Guard cutter sitting there. Here's the pier. That brick building is where you get the Fisher's Island ferries. Here we are. You can see New London has a beautiful waterfront here. I took a trip up here one day a couple of summers ago on the ferry from Orient Point and hung out. Had a great time. Getting all the Amtrak trains coming in and out, blowing their horns for the crossings. And there's a ferry coming in from Long Island. The Cape Henlopen. That's one of their slower boats. That is the Fisher's Island Ferry Terminal. Okay, we're pulling out at 7:24. See the nice docks here. A place to walk. Watch the boats, watch the trains. Leaving New London, we're going to cross another drawbridge here. I think this is Palmer's Cove. Keep filming this ride until we get a little ways past Rocky Neck State Park. Tracks go right along the beach, along the Sound. Gorgeous view. We'll be crossing the Niantic River Bridge on a drawbridge also. Milepost 122. Many years ago, the Orient Point ferries used to dock right around here. I remember we would catch the ferry here and I would look up on the hillside and see the passenger trains going through. This was a busy passenger line. Well, it still is. It's not quite as busy as it used to be because of the pandemic, but I'm hopeful it'll come back. Fairly soon we'll come up to our last railroad crossing, Miners Lane. That's a good place to rail fan. Excuse me. it, Miners Lane crossing. No more crossings. But you should still see a couple of nice seascapes. See, the breakneck speed is pretty much past. We don't go anywhere near as fast as we did in Massachusetts and a good chunk of Rhode Island. Tracks look like it can make about 10 complete circles between New London and New Haven. River drawbridge in East Lyme, Connecticut. Pretty spot. East Lyme, spelled L-Y-M-E. You know, you've heard the term Lyme disease. This is where that disease is named after. Lyme, Connecticut. A sweeping bend along this beach. I don't know if you ever saw the old railroad movie. I think it was made in the 70s. It's called Disaster on the Coastliner. Some of those scenes were filmed right here on this curve. It was a railroad action film. A lot of those films are never terribly authentic. I think they think most people who watch train movies are dumb. People on the beach admiring the view, seeing the train go by. Good fishing. There's a hiking trail on the other side of that fence. Another guy fishing. Yeah, a nice little hiking trail there with benches. People enjoying this beautiful evening. I would love to walk on that. Beautiful. What a night to be out doing something like this. Beautiful night, sitting along the coast. If you're a rail fan, it's even better. Should be seeing Rocky Neck State Park pretty soon. That's a long beach. Switching over. I'll film this ride until we come into Old Saybrook, but then there really won't be that much to see. Yeah, I think we just passed Rocky Neck State Park. You saw that beach back there. A lot of people go there. Great place to watch trains and get a sunbath. Do a little swimming in the Long Island Sound. there's one more seascape that we get to see, and that's the Connecticut River Bridge. That should be coming shortly, and then that'll be pretty much it once we get to Old Saybrook. Old Saybrook is around milepost 105. It's 20 to 8, still lots of light left. And now we're getting a little speed, but nothing near what we had in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Okay, we're coming up to the Connecticut River Bridge here. Slowing down. This is where the Connecticut River, flowing down from Vermont, New Hampshire, empties into the Long Island Sound. The river, folks. Nice little fishing pier down there. Get a good view of the railroad crossing the bridge. Saybrook, Connecticut. This is a terminus for Shoreline East trains, some of them. The bulk of them run from New Haven to Old Saybrook. Some go on to New London. When the rush hour, some go on as far as west as Stamford. Old Saybrook. And that's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed the ride, the high-speed running, and the scenery.